What's up, you guys? I'm Tony Metro, and today we're going to be discussing a potential trade between the Mets and the Rockies for Nolan Arenado. So if you missed it today, Jon Morosi of MLB Network reported that the Rockies would like to engage the Mets in a potential trade for Nolan Arenado. Going back to last year, Arenado has expressed an interest in being traded because the Rockies have failed to build a winning team around him. In fact, if you guys have been with me from the start, then you'll remember that I actually made a Mets trade proposal video for Arenado last offseason as well.
With all that being said, I'm going to come up with a trade that will work for both the New York Mets and the Colorado Rockies to satisfy both teams.
Things have definitely changed quite a bit, not just the MLB landscape, but my channel itself. I mean, you could see that was pretty brutal. But that being said, let's jump into this and see if we can find a trade that works for both the Mets and the Rockies. Both last offseason and this offseason, we've heard rumors swirling that the Dodgers would love to try and trade for Nolan Arenado. But of course, the Rockies don't really want to trade their best player to a division rival. And that's where the New York Mets could potentially come in on all of this. The Mets, now with Steve Cohen, the richest owner in baseball, are one of the few teams in the league that could afford to take on Arenado's contract. Everyone knows the sheer talent that Nolan Arenado is. He's undoubtedly one of the best third basemen in baseball, if not the best. From 2015 to 2019, Nolan Arenado has an average slash line of a 300 average, a 362 on base percentage, and a 575 slugging percentage. And over that time, he's averaged 40 home runs and 124 RBIs. He's a 5-time All-Star, an 8-time Gold Glove winner, and has finished top 10 in MVP voting 5 different times. In the 2019 offseason, the Rockies gave Nolan Arenado an 8-year, $260 million contract. But like I said, just 1 year after signing that deal, Arenado has become frustrated with the Rockies' inability to field a winning team around him. Now, Arenado is 29 years old and still has 6 years and $198 million remaining on his contract. The kicker in all of that is that Arenado does have a player option that he can exercise after this 2021 season. Meaning, if Arenado chooses, he can opt out of the contract with whatever team he's on and elect for free agency. And as great of a talent as Arenado is, his contract is going to complicate a potential trade for the Rockies. From 2021 to 2024, Arenado will be earning $35 million. Given the uncertainty of the league CBA as well as potential losses from COVID, I do believe that Arenado will remain in his current contract. But that's if, and only if, he's traded to a contending team that he believes can win. If Arenado remains on the Rockies through this year, I fully expect him to opt out of his contract after the 2021 season. Now, a typical trade for someone of Arenado's talent would usually cost a team a few of their top 5 prospects. But like I laid out, with his massive contract and his potential opt-out, teams probably won't ante up as much as they would for a similar talent. So my first trade proposal to the Rockies would be something like J.D. Davis, Brandon Nimmo, and Yuris Familia for Nolan Arenado and his full contract. The Rockies aren't getting any top prospects, so why would it work for them? Number one, they're trading Nolan Arenado and at least getting something for him before he walks next year. J.D. Davis at Coors Field could easily be a 35 home run hitter per season. Meanwhile, Brandon Nimmo is one of the most underrated and productive offensive players in the league. And number two, they'll be freeing up a ton of cap space so they can re-sign Trevor Story. And in the end, like I said, I believe that if Arenado goes to a contending team, that he will in fact opt into the rest of his contract. My second trade proposal is a little more convoluted, but stick with me here. Earlier this offseason, it was announced that Robinson Cano tested positive for PEDs and would be suspended for the entire season. With that, the Mets are not actually going to have to pay Cano for his 2021 salary. However, Cano is still eligible to return in 2022 at his full $20 million salary. Now, that wouldn't exactly be appealing to the Rockies. Why would the Rockies want a 37-year-old second baseman coming off his second positive PED test still under contract for 2 more years? Again, the Rockies are desperate to trade Nolan Arenado and cash in on him before he simply walks in free agency next year. And they definitely don't want to trade him to an NL West rival like the Dodgers. Now, Robinson Cano has a no trade clause, but if he was willing to waive that and go to the Rockies, the Mets could send Cano as well as J.D. Davis and third base prospect Brett Baty for Arenado. This works for the Rockies because they're getting a premier third base prospect in Brett Baty, and they're also getting a placeholder in J.D. Davis in the meantime. From the Mets' perspective, they get out from under Robinson Cano's contract in 2022 and 2023. And that would make absorbing Arenado's full contract much more feasible if they'd like to improve the roster this offseason and in future ones as well. The Rockies would have to pay Robinson Cano in 2022 and 2023, but I believe they could simply buy him out and let Robinson Cano choose an AL team where he'd be much better suited as a DH. Being realistic, I don't see that Robinson Cano trade working out, but it does make sense on paper. The Rockies are between a rock, get it, rock and a hard place, and they don't have a whole lot of leverage in any potential trade for Arenado. Not unless the team is willing to take on a 6-year, $198 million contract, which, oh, by the way, he can simply walk after the first season. My final offer to the Rockies would be Mets prospect Mark Vientos, Josh Wolf, and relievers Yuris Familia and Dellin Betances. Vientos is a third base prospect and ranked 7th in the Mets farm system, and Josh Wolf is a starting pitcher and ranked 9th in their system. Vientos could be the future third baseman for the Rockies, and Josh Wolf has middle of the rotation potential. The Rockies will have cleaned their hands of Nolan Arenado, saved some money to put toward Trevor Story, and gotten 2 new prospects for their farm system. Meanwhile, the Mets will get out from under the contracts of Yuris Familia and Dellin Betances and save $16 million this year. This could allow them to go out and still sign one of the premier free agents in George Springer or Trevor Bauer. Overall, I really don't see the Mets being in on a trade for Nolan Arenado. Number one, like I mentioned, Sandy Alderson's MO has never been to trade top prospects for big contracts. Number two, the Mets could simply improve the team in bigger areas of need such as center field and starting pitching through free agency. While the Mets do need an everyday third baseman, I think the cost of Arenado will preclude them from improving other areas of need on this roster. The simplest way to go about this might just be to go out and sign George Springer and or Trevor Bauer. For the time being, if the Mets were to sign George Springer, they could put him in center field, Jeff McNeil at third base, and Andres Jimenez at second base. And that still may allow them to go out and sign Trevor Bauer as well. So what do you guys think? Which of those 3 trade offers do you think is the best? Would you be concerned about Nolan Arenado's opt-out after 2021? And what team do you think Nolan Arenado will be playing for this year? Thank you guys for watching. I have been your host, Tony Metro.